Hey everyone, this is going to be a tutorial on how to integrate custom Pokémon into PMD Explorers of Sky using the SkyTemple Explorers of Sky ROM hacking tool. For this video, I'm using version 1.2.dev0 plus 6DA 5DA14. Basically, it's the current nightly beta of SkyTemple as of the date of recording. Before I get into it, I would like to say, this video is primarily being made for those participating in the current SkyTemple Discord Hack Jam, which is going on from May 7th to May 21st, 2021. Entry is open and encouraged for everyone, including you, person that is new to Explorers of Sky hacking. The main idea of this Hack Jam is to get the community to come together, give everyone a tangible goal, and let the creativity run wild. There will be a link to the SkyTemple Discord in the description. And one final thing, if you haven't watched it yet, check out my super beginner's guide on cutscene making. It's a little bit outdated at this point, but most of it still applies to the current version of SkyTemple, and I may gloss over explaining some things that I previously explained in that video. The link to that will also be in the description. Okay, custom Pokemon. One of the conditions of the current Hack Jam is that each submitted hack must, quote, have a Pokemon not present in the base game take an important role, unquote. What's cool about the EOS hacking community is that you don't necessarily need to make your own assets in order to do this. The SkyTemple Discord contains this thing called SpriteBot, which is this super collaborative effort from artists in the community to make all kinds of custom portraits and sprites that aren't in the original Explorers of Sky. At the time of this video, the whole dex for every generation is not complete yet, but there are definitely enough mons with both custom sprites and custom portraits to give you a good variety to pick from when making your hack. For the purposes of this video, I will be using Litwick. I've already downloaded the sprite sheet and portraits for Litwick from SpriteBot, which is, as I mentioned, located in the SkyTemple Discord. But if you don't know how to do that, if you go inside that Discord, there are very detailed instructions on how to do that. Once you have your own sprite sheet and portraits in order to get your custom Pokemon in the game, open up SkyTemple. Hey, we're in the software now. Open up SkyTemple and select your ROM, as I did. Then go to Pokemon here on the left and select the mon that you're going to replace. Now, as of now, the amount of available mons in the game cannot be expanded. However, if I scroll down a ways here to like 500 something. Okay, so 537 through 551, you can see I already edited one of them, but these are all normally question marks. These are all empty Pokemon slots in the game that can be edited without taking another mon out of the game. And all these question marks were originally meant for the RCS forms that did not make it into Explorers of Sky. Do not edit anything after the RCS forms. All of these are supposed to be reserved for actors, and the game does not like you messing around with these. So, let's just go here. Again, I already replaced, I think this was Arceus Steel, and I replaced it with Litwick. So let me walk through what I did as it loads. Okay, so here in settings name, simple enough, I just changed the name to Litwick, and then category, this is saying that it's the Candle Pokemon. Let's see, there's also a change that I made to the dex number, the gender, and the typing. The thing about gender, believe it or not, this actually does have gameplay implications in Explorers of Sky. There are 4 options here: invalid, male, female, and genderless. Invalid just means that it won't spawn. So you can see that Litwick has 2 separate sets of data for the same Pokemon, right? Male and female. So if I were to make one of these invalid, then only the other one will be usable in gameplay. For example, if I were to change this female one as it loads to be invalid, effectively what that does is mean that Litwick has a 100% male spawn rate in dungeons. And the game also does this for, of course, 100% male, 100% female, and genderless Pokemon, because you would have to make one invalid if you're making the other one genderless, right? Because otherwise you'd have to have the other one be one of these. So that's pretty much the idea. Once you have all of that set up, you're going to move into settings general. A lot of this is probably self-explanatory if you've dug into Explorers of Sky a bit, but you might not know what this personality value is. Basically, this controls the set of dialogue that the Pokemon gives you when going through a dungeon, right? Because you get little dialogue strings that depend whether they're at like full health, low HP, and whatever. And there's a bunch of other conditions. All that stuff can be messed around with in text strings, which is way up at the top of the main menu on the left there. Sorry, just wanted to move back. Okay. Next, we have base stats, which, again, pretty self-explanatory. Again, if you don't really have an idea of like what these values are relative to other mods, you can always just check one out. But yeah, it's like the same values as is like actually presented in the base Explorers of Sky game. So if you have experience with that, then there's no kind of like fancy other things that you need to think of. Okay, so then you have base stats. Then this is evolution conditions, exclusive items that they can hold, and then you have some additional options here in other. So in my instance, I didn't change any of this. So this is what they had for Arceus Steel by default. So if you're asking like why is unknown 31 value 357, I don't know. That's just what the game put there. Again, I don't know what these values are. That's why they're labeled as unknown. But who knows? Maybe mess around and you'll find out what it is. I just kind of left it the same. And nothing broke. Now, going into the Stats and Moves tab. First, you'll see there's a graph that showcases the growth pattern for each stat, which is really helpful and something that I like as well, because I think that this view's a little small personally. You have an option to open this in your browser and then zoom in and all that stuff. Let's see. What else? In the stats section, this is your growth by level. Yes, it is not a formula for stat growth in this game. It's actually, you have to manually enter it for each mod. Now, that kind of comes with an asterisk. Because there is an option to export this whole table to CSV and then import it. So you could, in theory, export this to CSV, put it in Excel, do your own, come up with your own kind of like formula, calcs, whatever, and then import it from there. But at the end of the day, you do have to have this table put in. And again, this is all, I didn't change any of this. This was just the default for Arceus. Okay, level up moves. Now, assuming that you're using a Gen 5 or higher Pokemon, adding into the game, this is where it becomes interesting, because there are only a limited number of new moves that you can include in the data for Explorers of Sky. If you wish to do that, you can go to, let me just close this for now, go to Moves on the left. You'll see that if I scroll to the bottom, there's a couple of unused ones. You can't add every move from Gen 5 onwards, so you kind of have to pick and choose. But if you do want to add one, you can. There's the text information, and then whatever, accuracy, PP, special physical status, type, whatever, all that good stuff. But obviously, as you can see, I didn't change the move, so I decided to not do that for this situation. Where's Litwick? Okay. Yeah, what I did is I just kind of like went through the Gen 5 list and did the level up moveset from there. Now, Litwick does learn 2 Gen 5 moves, so I had to get a little creative, right? Because at level 20, normally, this is not Lava Plume, this is Flame Burst, so I had to pick a close enough move. And then the same thing here. Shadow Punch, usually this is Hex that it learns at level 28, which is also a Gen 5 move. So there's that. You can also adjust HMTM moves and egg moves. And now we are finally going to put those SpriteBot downloads to good use. First, in portraits, it's really pretty simple. Just click import, and then you have import from one sheet SpriteBot format. And yeah, that's really it. If you download the completed SpriteBot sheet, or even if it's not complete, just as long as you don't edit it, it will be able to put these in. Now, if it is complete, then all or at least a strong majority of all of these face types will be available for the purposes of cutscenes and all that stuff. Which, honestly, I'll just throw this out there. This gives you a ton of freedom, having all these expressions available when you're making cutscenes. Just for reference, it is not common at all for a mon to have this many expressions available for cutscenes. Like, even story relevant characters in the original Explorers of Sky, you would be surprised at how few expressions that they have. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know that I personally put high value on trying to put someone in my story that gives me a lot of expressions available and all that stuff. And then moving on to sprites. It's really the same thing. Ignore this manual import-export thing if you are using SpriteBot. SpriteBot is only these two up here. It's the same idea, only instead of importing the image, like for portraits, for sprites, you are importing a folder. Now, if you download it and it's in a protected folder, if it's in an RAR or a zip, then you have to unprotect that. An easy way to do that is just create a folder, extract everything that is inside the protected folder, put it in the unprotected folder, and then select the unprotected folder. You're not selecting inside the folder, right? You're just selecting the folder. And then it should all be done from there. And then finally, once you've done all that, you are at the point that I already did before the video started. So, instead of manually repeating the process for your female variant of the Pokemon, or whatever it's going to be, assuming that you want to have male and female, right? You can just export everything with the button in the bottom left, and then copy it onto the second form. Make sure that you disable these two checkboxes, because basically what this does is it takes the original second form data and overwrites the first form data. So if my female was something that had no data on it, which it originally was because it was Arceus Steel, right? It would essentially just put the Arceus Steel stuff back on if I were to keep both these enabled. So remove those checkboxes, then copy on other Pokemon, scroll down to Litwick, then pick female, save, and there is one thing that you need to change. Notice how it changed the gender to male because all the data was copied. And then just do that, and bam. That is it. Finally, it is time to test the new Pokemon in game. Also, you have to save after doing that. Yeah. So, time to test them in game. I'm going to go to lists, then starters, And then you can see I changed the partner to be Litwick for debugging purposes. Now I'll just open the debugger here and boot the game. Once it loads, also probably worth mentioning that debugging mode needs to be enabled. It is by default though. And select new game. No, I'm going to do main 2 because it's quicker for me to be able to see the partner this way. I have to sit through less cutscene. And there it is. Okay, so Litwick has successfully spawned in the overworld. The portraits are working and the sprites are working. If I were to continue playing on, I could test all the dungeon properties as well. I recommend main 2 if you're just doing something like this on a fresh ROM, because you don't have to sit through a lot to get to the dungeon if you want to test all that stuff out. But of course, there's a lot more tinkering around you can do with the debug menu and etc. That's a whole nother topic on ways to test things. That's kind of out of the scope of this video, but it all worked. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Again, check out all the links that I mentioned in the description, and there will be another tutorial on the way that is also related to the upcoming Hack Jam. Thanks, and have a good day.